What is up, my good people? This is the Mega Bull. What I'm about to show you is something that has very, very high probability of happening, especially what's happening with, what's happening in Russia and Ukraine. Now, this is the ICE-9 theory proposed by Jim Rickards, and this is the way you get to change from the US dollar being the world reserve currency to a basket of currencies. And this way, this method that can be used is going to cause a lot of destruction, a lot of chaos. You're going to see a global depression that is going to put the world on its knees. And this is the scary part. So here I'm going to play a clip from Darren Moore Jr. from a long time ago. And it gives you insight into what's going on or what could happen. Okay? And this ICE-9 theory carries very, very relevant points. So take a listen.
Sure, for sure. And by the way, with climate change too, I mean, all these things.
Sure. Yeah, there's
reckless monetary policy is setting up for a paradigm shift. It is full throttle ahead with devastating consequences. The dollar is the world reserve currency. What happens when the Fed loses credibility? Trust needs to be restored on a global level. What better way than to restore trust with a trustless system, with monetary policy baked into the code? A global reset and a new world emerges. From the ashes of the old, a level playing field without reserve currencies.
Like, Jim, is your ICE-9 prediction still in play, or are we past that?
Sorry for the ads.
All my social media marketing.
No, it's still in play. And just I'll be really brief. ICE-9 is, I nicked it from Kurt Vonnegut, who used it in his novel Cat's Cradle, which I highly recommend. Hilarious. It's a black comedy in the early 60s at a time when we were all worried about the world being blown up by nuclear weapons. But the idea was that a physicist invented ICE-9, which is an isotope of water, and it's frozen at what we call room temperature. But if a molecule of ICE-9 comes in contact with a molecule of water, the water turns to ICE-9. So if you poured a vial into a stream, the stream would freeze, the sound would freeze, the ocean would freeze, the world would freeze, and life on Earth would come to an end. So that's what ICE-9 is. But I took that idea and applied it to financial markets and said, you can't shut down one market because, FDR had a bank holiday in 1933, but people don't remember that. He shut every bank in America by executive order. Every bank in America by executive order shut, and didn't say when he was going to reopen them. They were reopened about a week later, but he didn't say that at the time. But the point is, if you freeze money market funds, you say, okay, we've got to run on money market funds. Nobody can redeem money market funds until further notice. You can do that. Then they're going to go to the banks. They're going to give me my money out of the bank. Whether they're going to have to freeze withdrawals from deposits. Then they're going to go to stocks and sell stocks because people want the cash. And they're going to have to shut the stock market. So the point is, you can't freeze one section of the markets without freezing all of them, because investors will just pivot from one to the other to the next, the same way the ICE-9 molecule, until you have to shut down everything. And I talked about this in chapter 1 of my book, The Road to Ruin, 2016, how the biggest cog in the wheel, if you will, is BlackRock. And BlackRock's not a bank. And it barely avoided being regulated as a systemically important financial institution coming out of Dodd-Frank. But don't think that the lobbying associated with that wasn't, taken to an unheard of level. Larry Fink gets touted as Secretary of the Treasury, but rest assured that if you get into the kind of scenario we just described, that there'll be a phone call to BlackRock and say, you've got to freeze everybody.
The whole system comes to a stop. It freezes. The crypto in my ledger is money that can be sent to anyone in the world in seconds at a fraction of a penny. The banks will reach a moment where they can't transact, and the technology that they have tried to contain will be the saving grace. It will be a fight or flight moment. Will they save themselves by using crypto?
Thanks.
Okay, now that was a very, very good 3 minutes. Now I'm going to make my case in point here, because this applies more than ever to what's currently happening. Now, when I go over here, I see Ursula von der Leyen, if that's how you pronounce her name. She's the president of the EU Commission, right? She said first, she's talking about, putting sanctions on Russia, right, because of their invasion. She says, first, we commit to ensuring that a certain number of Russian banks, so not all of them, a certain number of them, are removed from SWIFT. It will stop them from operating worldwide and effectively block Russian exports and imports. And keep in mind that Russia is the third largest oil exporter. So that's going to affect the already global energy shortage. Second, we will paralyze the assets of Russia and Russia's central bank. This will freeze its transactions, and it will make it impossible for the central bank to liquidate its assets. So, folks, it's getting very serious, and this theory of ICE-9 is very plausible. Now, my next point. Bill Ackman says, I wouldn't want to keep money in a bank that can't access the SWIFT system. Once a bank can't transfer or receive funds from other banks, its solvency can be at risk. If I were Russian, I would take my money out now. Bank runs could begin in Russia on Monday. And Jim Merkert says this may occur, but what happens in Russia doesn't stay in Russia. Ackman's egging on bank runs, but they're never local, always global. This will spill over into a global liquidity crisis within days. Count on it. ICE-9, right? In a sense, because if banks notice that this is happening and they start shutting off their banks, or some first it starts with banks, then people, if they go to the stock market, then the stock market gets shut down because everyone's pouring to try to get their money out and get cash. Then from the stock market it goes to the other markets, and it keeps on going and going and going. This is a very plausible scenario that could happen. And whenever there's a global liquidity crisis, like Jim Rickards is saying here, well, what other technology can step in that's solving cross-border payments, that's solving the very issue that SWIFT is there to provide the solution to? Well, they're outdated. And the XRP ledger does the very job that these central banks need, especially in a moment of a global liquidity crisis. And this is what it's probably going to come down to. And here it says that in the first half of 2018, the Bank of Russia conducted research on testing the possibility of cross-border settlements using the Ripple platform. And so they're trialing it and testing it. And it's tried and true. It hasn't failed once. And so if you start seeing this for what it is, it's leading. If you've been following XRP and Ripple, you know that it was created for a moment like this. Now, it may not be pretty going through the process, but this is what it was created for. And it's not guaranteed once you come out from the other side that you'll be able to access whatever cryptos you have. Because legislation, if it's deemed a national security, you may not be allowed to own it, and you may have it purchased from you. Who knows at what price? It may not be the price you think, but it's a very possible scenario. Now we see that Christine Lagarde from the European Central Bank wants quick action on crypto regulation following these Russian sanctions. Why? Because at the end of this, whatever crisis it is, whatever problem that comes out from this, their solution is going to be a CBDC. So if you start seeing a lot of cyber attacks, etc., they'll promote the CBDC as being safe from that. People can purchase things without the fear of losing everything. And this is a very possible scenario. And in a crisis is when you're able to promote something like this, because people want solutions. So what I'm saying is that we could have a scenario like ICE-9 where things are frozen, or like cyber attacks happen and all the markets get stopped, whatever the case may be. If one market gets, let's say, a cyber attack and they shut off, then in order for the other markets to not have the same problem, they might do some kind of temporary shutoff in order to avoid, whatever crisis that's coming. I don't know. These are just thoughts and ideas. But what I'm saying is pay attention, be aware. But I think the XRP and the XRP ledger was created for this very reason. And we're going to see more narratives come out in regards to this. So, anyways, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe to the channel. This is the Mega Bull experience. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And if you think that ICE-9 is a reality or not. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.